Howdy folks, this is Professor Ryan, and what we're going to do in this microeconomics video is we are going to talk about costs in economics. So this idea of costs can be applied to both microeconomics and macroeconomics. However, it is generally really focused on microeconomics, and that's why this is in a microeconomics class. Okay? So the idea of a cost, what is a cost? Okay? Well, here's one definition. I'm going to give you a couple definitions. What is a cost? All right. Now, you probably already know what a cost is. You probably think of a cost as, for example, how much does a soda cost, right? You think of cost as the price of the thing you're buying. But the reason you think of cost as the price of the thing you're buying is because that's how much you have to pay out to get it. But on the business side, they don't think of price as a cost. They think of price as something that they are getting because they're the receivers of the money. And therefore, you don't want to mix up cost and price. Cost and price are not the same thing in microeconomics. Okay? We want a generic term or generic idea that includes the money that you give up when you buy something, but it also has to include, for example, what is the cost of you going to the store? Well, you have to give up some time, right? You have to get in the car, you have to use up some gas in your car to drive to the store. Then you have to go in the store. Let's say that you might have to, maybe you had to change your clothes, or you had to, put on makeup or do your hair because you didn't want to go out into public looking like you had just woken up. And therefore, there was the time, and then there was the clothing that you used, and then the makeup that you used, or the hairspray or whatever. All that stuff you used up. Why? So that you could go to the store, buy a soda, buy a bag of chips, and then come back home. Okay, so those are all things that you had to use up or give up in order to go to the store and get your soda and your chips. And so these are all costs, and we're gonna talk about that. Now, these are especially important in microeconomics. Okay, so we're going to talk about an explicit versus an implicit cost versus an implicit cost. Okay, explicit costs are costs that involve expenditure of money. You are expenditure of money. Explicit costs, they have a dollar sign attached to them, or a euro sign or a yen sign, some kind of, they are actual number values of money that you spent. So you go to the store and you paid $3 to get your soda and your chips. The explicit cost of going to the store was $3. Okay? Let's see here. Examples in a business: payroll costs are explicit costs. Taxes, rent, advertising money that's spent. Okay, all those things in a business are explicit costs. For you, the money that you pay monthly for your car or your insurance, money you pay out for the gas for your car, the money you pay for your food or your rent, those are all explicit costs. Implicit costs are costs not involving dollar expenditures. Okay, so do you remember the example where I said that you had to spend time to drive to the store? You had to give up some time to go to the store to get your chips and your soda. That time that you gave up, that is an implicit cost. Now, I know that people say that time is money, and that is true. However, the time that you spent to go to the store hadn't yet had the opportunity to get converted into money, so it is an implicit cost. Now, you can put a dollar value on implicit costs. If you had to clock out from work to drive over to the store and buy your stuff, come back and clock back in, and during that time you missed a half an hour of work and you get paid $10 an hour, then you had to give up $5 in implicit costs to go to the store and buy the soda and the chips. Okay, so it's just not worth it. Don't clock out. Wait until the end of work, then go get your chips and soda. Okay, and don't And don't drive over to the store while you're on the clock. That's not okay either. That's a principal agent problem issue, okay? You're at work to produce. You're not at work to get utility, okay? So even if you do get utility, that's fine, but you're at work to produce, not to get utility. All right, so now, so that's basically the difference between an explicit and an implicit cost, okay? And what we have, see, here's the thing. It's interesting. In business, only explicit costs are recorded by accountants. Okay, so the things that go on the books, the things that go on the financial reports in a business are explicit costs. They don't put implicit costs not recorded by accounting. Okay? So these implicit costs for a business are not going to be on the financial records of the business. However, they are considered by economists. Okay? And also finance people. Finance people, they care about the implicit costs because they want to make a comparison between one business opportunity and another business opportunity for that business. And so the finance people are going to consider the implicit costs, but what they really want to do is they're going to want to convert the implicit costs into explicit costs. Okay? Economists go much further than that. Okay? Implicit costs. Let's see if I get any examples for a business. Sure. Here's a great example of an implicit cost. Sometimes, let's say a business is buying materials from a supplier and they don't really like that supplier anymore, so they want to find a different supplier for their tires. Well, they're going to have to spend time. It's going to take some time to investigate new suppliers, and so their employees are going to have to spend time not doing other things, but looking for a new supplier. And then you have to, now there could be some explicit costs with changing suppliers also, but there will also be some implicit costs. Time is usually one of the biggest implicit costs that we deal with. Okay, so consider that. All right. Okay, so that's explicit costs versus implicit costs. Explicit costs, they're going to have a dollar sign. Implicit costs, they're not going to have a dollar sign. Okay? All right, let's talk about opportunity costs. I want you to think about what an opportunity is. What is an opportunity? An opportunity cost. Okay, an opportunity is a chance to do something, right? Your friend calls you up, says, hey man, I got an extra ticket for the football game. Do you want to come with me? Okay, so you now have a chance to go to the football game. Okay, you have an opportunity has been presented to you to go to the football game, right? Or you get a phone call, you're looking for a job, you get a phone call from a company, they say, hey, we really want you to come work for us. Why don't you come over here, fill out the paperwork, and work for us. We think we're going to be a really good fit. We think you're going to love it here. You now have the opportunity to go work that job. That's a chance to go work that job. So an opportunity cost is when you take that opportunity and you give it up because it's a cost. You're giving up a chance to do something. You're sacrificing a chance to do something. Why? Because you're trying to get something else. You're trying to get a bigger goal. You want something else other than, your friend says, hey, let's go to the football game. But then you have the opportunity, let's say, to go to a basketball game, okay? And you like basketball better than football. And so you say, well, I'm going to give up the opportunity to go to the football game so that I can go to the basketball game. Why are you doing that? Because you like basketball more, because you're going to get more out of the basketball game. On the other hand, if you give up the basketball game to go to the football game, now the basketball game is the opportunity cost and you take advantage of the football game. Another thing that you're giving up if you go to the basketball game is you're giving up time with your friend. Now, it could be that you didn't really want to hang out with that friend in the first place, so let's not consider that. We don't want to make it too complicated. But an opportunity cost is the way economics textbooks, they typically define it like this. It is the value of the next best alternative, of the next best alternative as a result of making a decision, or let's just say when you make a decision, or when you choose something. Okay? So you make a decision, you decide to go to the basketball game. So the next best thing you would do if you didn't go to the basketball game is you would go to the football game. So you give up the football game to go to the basketball game. Since the football game was your next best alternative, that's the next best thing that you were going to do, whatever the value is, whatever utility or benefit you would have gotten out of going to the football game, you're giving that utility up so that you can go get the utility of the basketball game. I'm going to give you another definition of opportunity cost. Here it is. The sacrifice or loss of a favorable... See, sometimes people give something up, but it wasn't favorable. They didn't want to do it anyways. They didn't want to do it in the first place. So they didn't really give it up because they didn't lose anything. They didn't even want to do that thing. Okay? So the sacrifice or loss of a favorable chance or prospect in order to get something, that's a something, that's supposed to be an H and an I, something better. Okay? So it's the sacrifice or loss of a favorable chance or prospect in order to get something better. I don't want the football game, I want the basketball game. So I'm going to give up something good, I'm giving up something good for something better. That's an opportunity cost. Okay? All right. That's pretty good. So let's now talk about, well, what are some examples of opportunity costs? I'm going to erase these definitions. And now let's look at what are some examples of opportunity costs. Let's see here. All right, let's say that you want to buy some stock, okay? And you can invest in Johnson & Johnson, okay? Or you can invest in another company, SRE, okay? So you can invest in either one of these companies, right? If you choose to put your money into Johnson & Johnson, then you're giving up all of the benefits, all of the money that you would have gotten if you had invested in this other company. And so, now hopefully what you get from this company is more than what you got from this company. But sometimes when we don't know what's going to happen in the future, giving something up is meaning you might get less than what you would have gotten. You give up something that in the future is worth more. But right now you don't know that it's worth more. I'll give you a personal example. I play a geeky card game. And in that geeky card game, some of the cards that you collect when you open the product are worth more money than other cards, you know? And so those cards, sometimes you can sell them to other people. Some people are willing to pay money. Well, I recently acquired a card by chance that was worth about $35. And I decided to sell the card on the internet to somebody across the country, and they paid me $35 and I sent them the card. And so I'm glad that I have $35. The opportunity cost was I had to give up the card. I can't keep the card and get the $35. But to me, the $35 was better than the card because I don't want to do anything with the card. I don't even want that card. Now, if I could have both, if I could have the card and the $35, I'll definitely do that, but I can't have both. I have to give something up. I have to either have to not get the $35 and keep the card, or I have to give up the card and get the $35. Now, here's the other thing. It's possible that in a month that card will be worth $70. And so I lost $70 as well. But I don't know that right now. And so I shouldn't make the decision on a what could be, unless I have good information about what's going to happen in the future. But right now, I would rather have the $35 than the card. So I put it in an envelope, I mail it off, they give me 35 bucks, and we are both happy. Okay? That's economics. So these are examples of opportunity costs. Another great example of an opportunity cost is, let's say a friend comes to you and says, hey, let's go to lunch. And you say, okay, let's go to lunch. Where should we go? And you narrow it down to two choices. We are either going to Chili's or we're going to Taco Bell. And now for some of you that may be a no-brainer, but let's just say that those are your choices, Chili's or Taco Bell. You can only have lunch one time. I mean, you could have two lunches that day, but that has its own issues of opportunity costs. But let's assume that everybody's only having lunch once a day. And so you have to give up the opportunity to go to Chili's if you decide to go to Taco Bell. Or you have to give up the opportunity to go to Taco Bell if you want to go to Chili's. You have to give up a chance to do something else in order to go do that thing. And hopefully you pick the one that is better. You're going to get married. Let's say you haven't met anybody yet, but you know there are a couple nice potential mates that you see. You haven't gotten into a relationship with either one, but you have a chance to pursue either one of them. I know they do it in the movies, but really, you can only pursue one of them and get married to one of them. So you're going to have to decide. And so you're going to have to pick the one that you think you're going to get the most benefit from and then let the other one go. Okay? And that's just the way it is with decisions in life. That's economics. Economics is all about trying to make the best decision for what's going to be best for you and your family and whatever's important to you for the future. Okay? All right, that's opportunity costs. All right, let's see here. Let's go to transaction costs. Okay? All right. What is a transaction cost? A transaction cost is a cost incurred, okay, in the process of making an exchange or a transaction. Transaction cost. Additional costs incurred, meaning you had to pay out more costs to gain or to accomplish it. Let's say to accomplish something else, to accomplish some other benefit, like a purchase. Great example of a transaction cost is when you buy something on Amazon and they charge you a shipping fee. The thing you bought was $30, but they're going to charge you a $2 shipping fee to mail it to you. The $2 shipping fee, now that's an explicit cost because it's dollars, that is a transaction cost. The $30 you paid, that was for the thing you're buying. That's not a transaction cost. Additionally, let's say you could have bought the same thing today down the street at the store for $45, but you're like, I want to buy it on Amazon for only $30. Even though it's $2 shipping, it's still less than the $45. So, but you can have it right now if you buy it for $45 at the store. You have to wait 2 days, maybe 3 days from Amazon to get your stuff. The 2 or 3 days that you have to wait is a transaction cost. It's an additional cost because you're making a purchase, because you're trying to get some other benefit. You're trying to get that object from Amazon, and so you have to wait, and that's a cost. Now, what kind of cost is it? It's an implicit cost. The time you have to wait for the thing to come in the mail, that is an implicit transaction cost, where the shipping fee was an explicit transaction cost. Additionally, when we go to the store and buy things, we oftentimes have to pay sales tax on the things that we buy. Sales tax is an explicit transaction cost. It's not the thing you're buying, it's an additional cost to the thing you're buying, therefore it's a transaction cost. Now, transaction costs are extremely important in business. You should never overlook the transaction costs. An implicit transaction cost is what about the cost of going from your house to get in your car to drive to work? A lot of people forget about the transaction cost, how long it takes you to put your shoes on, grab your keys, grab your wallet, and go get in your car. That probably takes like 2 or 3 minutes. But this is what people will say, well, I have to be to work at 4 o'clock, and it takes me 15 minutes to get to work, so I need to stop watching TV at 3:45 so I can be to work by 4 o'clock. No, 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 no. You are leaving out the transaction cost between turning off the TV and driving away in your car. Like I said, it's going to take at least 2 or 3 minutes. You may even have to use the restroom before you go get in your car. You've got to account for transaction costs of time. You need to turn off the TV at 3:40 so that you can put your shoes on, maybe use the restroom, grab your wallet, grab your keys, go get in your car, especially if you live in an apartment and your car is downstairs. It could take you 2 minutes just to get to your car. Unlock your car, open the door, get in the car, shut the door, put your seatbelt on, put the key in, start up the car, and turn on the radio before you, and you got to reverse. You're not moving forward, you got to reverse out of your parking space before you can drive away. You have to account for the time that it takes between the time you stop the activity and start driving towards work. That could take a good 5 minutes. And that's if you're really moving, if you're really goal-oriented on that. Okay? So be careful about the transaction costs of time. They're important. So, transaction costs, don't overlook them in business. If you overlook them in business or in your personal life, they can really pile up to where you don't even realize how much money you've been spending or how much time you've been spending just on transitions or transactions from one thing to the next thing. Okay? So, transaction costs, very important. Let's see if I have any other good examples in here. Let's see here. Nope. Okay, let's move on to sunk costs. What is a sunk cost? All right. Sunk costs. Sunk costs. All right, a sunk cost is a cost already incurred that cannot be recovered. Costs already, let's say already spent. Costs already spent that can't be recovered by, that can't be recovered. Okay, you'll never get that money back. You'll never get that time back. You'll never get any of it back. And cannot be changed by future decisions. All right? Can't be changed by future decisions. And they can be either implicit or explicit. All right, here's a couple examples. A sunk cost. Let's say that you have the opportunity to invest in a business, but the person who's giving you the business opportunity tells you that you need to hand them $10,000 so that they won't offer the business opportunity to someone else. Okay, so if you're thinking about it, they say, look, if you give me $10,000, then you can go think about it, and then if you like it, you do it. If you don't like it, I keep the $10,000 and you go do something else. But they say, look, I can't hold off this opportunity. If someone else comes to me and you don't give me the deposit, I can't hold off for you. So you hand them the $10,000, and then you look into the business opportunity a little bit more, and you find that it's not a good idea, that you should not go into business. Or it's just not good for you. Maybe it's a great business opportunity, but it's not good for you. You have lost that $10,000. What a lot of people will do at this point is say, well, I know it's a bad business idea. I know that I shouldn't do it, but I already gave $10,000. So I already made the commitment. And then what they'll do is they'll allow that cost, that deposit, they'll allow that sunk cost to influence their decision. And that's the main thing you need to understand, is that sunk costs should never should never be considered when making a decision. You should never consider the costs that are lost. Lost cost, that's what it is. A sunk cost is a lost cost. Here's another example. Let's say that you spend a bunch of time, let's say you spend months, no, well, not months straight, but you spend a lot of time over a few months planning a big vacation, okay, let's say for your family. And let's say that you spend $3,000 paying for airplane tickets and hotel rooms and tickets to go to some amusement park, right? And then a few days before you go on your trip, you find out that your father is sick and could actually die and maybe needs help. Is going to be in the hospital for a week or two, okay? You're probably going to think to yourself, I need to be around for my father. And so, but then what you're also going to think to yourself, I just spent all that time and money planning this vacation, and let's just say you can't get any of that money back. Let's say that it was all non-refundable things that you purchased. You could give it to somebody else, and that's fine, but you're not going to enjoy it, that's for sure. So for you to decide, well, I have to go on this vacation because I already spent all that money and all that time planning it. No, you don't. You don't have to go on that vacation. That's a sunk cost. It should have nothing to do with the decision that you're about to make about going on the vacation or not. You should be ignoring sunk costs when you're making a decision about what to do in a situation. Now, if you can recover some of the money, that money is not a sunk cost. That's an asset. Sunk costs are money and time and implicit and explicit costs that are gone and can't be recovered. Okay? So those are sunk costs. Sunk costs are very important in business. And I recommend that you ignore them when you're making important decisions, unless you're able to recover some of them.